Wow, even with my headset, it's not working right.
Hey,
It keeps
hey,
cutting.
we're live now. That was Josh talking there. Hello, everybody. Good evening. Sun and moon here on Sunday, the 22nd of the 2017. So far on the panel, we have from America, we have Patricia from the UK, Holland, from America, and we have artists from Germany. So hello, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hello, 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 hello. So how is everybody? Everybody
Yeah,
okay?
right.
So Artis has got some information which he's going to share with us. So I'm going to hand over to Artis.
Well, thank you, Art. Thank you very much, Karen.
That's all right, my darling.
Can you see my screen?
I'm going to present you now.
No.
Oh, I'm going to leave it like that. That's okay.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Okay.
There you are. We can see it. Thank
All
you,
right.
Artis.
Okay. Okay, I want to talk about monolithic structures again. And first, a little introduction. This is in Peru, near Cusco. And you can talked about it before, those big stones you can see over here. And at the back, basically reconstruction and repairs by the Maya civilization. But I'm basically going to focus on these big monolithic blocks that fit together. So you can't even put a credit card or even a human hair between them. It's very interesting. Those big structures. You can see the repairs on top and by the side. This is in Baalbek, Italy. You can see again very big stones, and this stone is, you can see, if you look at the rest of the stones, they have rough surfaces, and this is very smooth. It's almost 100% level, and you can see those cutouts in the rock. Sometimes they say, yeah, that could be for roof support, but this proves it isn't for roof support, but it's way too low for any roof support. Also, you can see this cutout is behind the stairs. So this block is much bigger than you can actually see. In the next picture, it's a little bit further. It's the same block. You can see this block is one of the smoothest stones on the whole structure. Again, here, this is a little bit rougher, but still big stones, also with those holes in there to fit something. What it should fit, it's still a little bit of a mystery. So you have all these big blocks also here in Baalbek, Italy, basically under the temple of Jupiter. You can see smaller blocks on top, very big monolithic blocks under there, also with, again, those holes in there. You can actually see how big those blocks are, probably around 200 tons.
Enormous, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. They're very enormous. And you can see a doorway. So basically you can see how big of a doorway there was cut for a very large human. And most of the time those doorways are this big to fit actually easily fit 7-foot person or even 8 foot. So this is also proves that the doorways in these monolithic structures are often for very large people. This is in Pumapunku. You can again see those larger blocks, and on top of that they put smaller blocks. And go to the next video. In the right you can see an Inca structure with smaller stones. Then you can see those stones, and basically those bigger stones are the oldest. So you can see they use very big stones to build these structures. So you can see here very clear they put it together like a jigsaw puzzle. And that's not one stone is the same shape. Here you have two small stones and then this stone. And then a very small stone over here. What is very good for this kind of buildings is if you have an earthquake and the stones separate a bit, it still stays as a whole piece. So it's earthquake proof. So that's very handy. It's built without any mortar cement between them. You can see again here repairs by the Inca civilization on top. And basically here on the left you can see Inca structures, how they Inca build them. Sometimes the Incas try to duplicate this kind of structures. Here again you can see on top Inca repairs. And even if you go to the Osirian temple in Egypt, you can see those big blocks. And again, repairs and buildings on top with smaller stones. So
Artis, is that the one that's still, like they've uncovered underneath? Like there's a palace there, and then that's underneath, and they can go in there at certain times of the year, but it does fill up with water. Like you can see there.
Yeah. You have.
I think I've seen all about that one.
Yeah, you have here behind this stone basically in doorway.
They're granite, aren't they? They're granite lumps.
Granite or close to the hardness of granite. And what is interesting in the back, that's why this picture is so interesting. You can see again those stones here. It's not a straight line, the top of this block. It goes a little bit down, it goes further here. Some strange angling on these stones, just like you have in Peru. And those knobs, just slightly more, you can see not as good as on those structures in Peru, but still you can see them. And indeed, through this doorway, just behind this block, you have a temple, or they think it's a temple. This another side, you can see how large those blocks are. And also here you can see how they get them on top of each other. Here you can see also, maybe it's broken off like this, with a strange rectangular shape. And of course here you have a knob. So if you make sure this knob is exactly in the middle, you place this huge block on top of it, it stays on the knob. So if you click it on, it is exactly straight. All those walls are exactly straight, and they are almost 100% level. Here you can see another knob. You can clearly see that they put it on top of each other, just like Lego pieces. Here is the doorway, and then you can go in further into the ground, into some kind of temple.
But this is built underneath the other one, isn't it? Was underground, and they uncovered it.
Yeah, it was underground, and basically you can see in the other pictures they built something on top of it around. So it was indeed under the ground, and they uncovered it and found this monolithic temple with no writing on the walls. You can see knobs over here, just like in Peru. It looks a lot like those blocks in Peru. This is the Osirian temple at Abydos in Egypt. So if you want to research it and compare it to the temples in Peru, like Machu Picchu, you can see that they have a lot of similarity between those structures, a lot of similarity. Here you can see there's another doorway. So you can see the whole structure. Here there's a tube, I don't know where it was for. And basically you can see how deep underground it is, because these are the housings above the ground. So it was very deep in the ground. This is another temple that looks like the temple I showed before, but this is the Valley Temple of Khafre in Egypt. This is near the pyramids, near the Giza Plateau. And again, you can see very huge blocks on top of each other, and then a structure with smaller stones, basically limestone on top of it. But these are granite blocks, and these blocks are again almost 100% level. But I think they are only 0.002 off of being actually 100% level. And even that little bit off could be caused by the weathering of the stones. So one time they probably would be 100% level. Another view of that same temple is this is the Valley Temple of Khafre. There's no water in it, and you can see how skillful this is built. You can see the size of the stones. how big they are.
Is this poured? You see these layers filtering off, or flinting off?
Yeah, yeah, that's a great catch that you pointed that out, Ceres. Indeed, the layer is crumbling. With a lot of structures in Egypt, also the obelisk structures and other structures, even statues, you can see that the surface is crumbling off. Like they maybe poured the stone, and now if the actually the structure is crumbling a little bit on the surface, so it's not the containment of that structure is just little is crumbling on the surface. Yeah, great thing that you pointed that out. Maybe it's dissolving because some kind of that the pouring of the stone is not that solid anymore as it should be. For some sort of reason, it's crumbling down. Here you can see an angle. You can see also they put stones on the angle on this structure, around the corner. What is interesting, if you go to Sacsayhuaman in Peru, it's also around the corner. So this is in Egypt. They built around the corner. And if you go to Peru, it's also built in the same type of fashion around the corner. If you look very, basically you think this is the same structure almost, but this is in Egypt, and this is in Peru. You can see how big of a doorway, and actually a human can easily fit, because if you have a human, you should have a human standing here. It comes to this height, only just above the half of the door. And again, those knobs, also very low, because sometimes they, yeah, it's for a roof support. Well, this is very low roof support. They're basically on the ground. So in my opinion, it was not for a roof support, because I think there's maybe for pouring, that these are the pouring holes still visible of pouring the stones. And this is also a structure you can see here, bigger stones and smaller stones in between. So, and on top they built a Roman temple at one point, but it's now gone. This is in Spain. It's called Ceres in Spain. If you compare that to Tiwanaku in Bolivia, you see a lot of similarity again. Big stones with smaller stones in between. And what is also interesting, if here I put a red line around the big stones, you can see it's the same, built in the same type of fashion, with bigger stones that were probably there, and then after that they built with smaller stones between them. So that it looks like me they've done it in that fashion. There again, in this wall I just found out you have a watering thing to get water out. So it's in the wall over here, I think. So it's also something, it has something to do with water at some point, because I've seen a lot of these kind of waterways in these kind of structures in Peru. Now we have also those ace blocks, I've talked about it before. And this is in Pumapunca in Bolivia. You can see them lying around, also with holes in them. What I think, if you pour actually liquid stone in there, you have some kind of molds to actually make stone. So it's basically for pouring stones. You can see it's a duplication, because these are the same. And you can easily, often they have holes, so you can this you can lay flat even and put something on top of it with a hole. And basically pour these all these kind of shapes for a wall. It's crumbled all around. You can see you have a very flat surface here. You have basically here something you can put in the pouring devices. So if you like, can fit those stones probably very tight against each other and pour liquid from the top. So it's a possibility here again. It's not like a duplication of stones. because these smaller stones you probably have to have more of them. So they made them in a row. Just my opinion. I don't say that this is 100% like it is, but this is what I think it is. And okay, you can see big surface, also with anchors, to put them, put these stones as close and tight together as possible. And again, on top of you have here these. I think it's a pouring station. It wouldn't surprise me that actually is what it was used for, because it looks like here you also have an anchor. You can fit some stones very tight together. Here a hole in it, so this is one that has a hole in it. You can put on top of pour the liquid through, and you can basically pour this kind of structures. I measured it as close as possible, and basically you can pour with these kind of stones. You can pour this wall and then paste it together. So that's interesting. Here again, these stones look like they could have been poured with that that pouring stages in Puma Punto. These are rough shaped. Maybe these are the ones that didn't come out of the mold very good. So this could be the miss pourings, and they put him aside. So that's a possibility. Then you also have the stairs I've talked about. It looks like a sofa. And here you have the same kind of structure in Spain. And this is in Peru. So that's very interesting that this one in Peru looks so much alike one in Spain. If you put them side by side, this is in Peru, this is in Spain. You can see a lot of similarity. Basically here, this one in Peru on the left could have been also this kind of structure test. You can already see here a crack. Or maybe on this structure it has broken off. And often that's also the case because around these kind of structures you see a lot of rubble all around it. There's some lines to point out the stairs and the similarity. This is also a kind of stair or sofa sitting device. This is in high up in the mountains in Puma Punku. This is another one. This is in on the Phoenix in Athens. And it also looks like a bit like a sofa or something you can sit on. And here you have a false doorway, like you have in a lot of structures, false doorways. And this is in Peru again, near Cusco. And if you put them side by side, you see a lot of similarities, even with this thing sticking out on the left. And you have the false doorway basically here. Only in Peru, often the top is missing. The structure is, looks like it is more complete with a roof actually over it. And maybe at one point there was also a roof over this structure, but it's broken off. And basically in the valley below you can see all the pieces of this structure lying, all those fragments of this structure. You see some lines, you can see the same. This doorway looks a lot like this doorway, sticking out bit. And you have an armrest sort of in between. Just here you also have the same. A lot of similarity. This is also what I talked about some hangouts ago. This is in Villa Xocha in Peru. Very hard to pronounce. And it's near water. And what I basically think is if you see this structure, so this structure, you see that from above. Here is the water. Basically, it looks a lot like like this, like a water treatment works. And they also have those round shapes with buildings. These are water treatment works around the world. And they look a lot like this because it almost looks there's also water nearby. And maybe this was a water purification facility. Who knows? Also, what I talked about was that star sign wheel in Saxe-Human. It's called the Murituk. I won't pronounce it again. It basically looks like it's a Saxe-Human in Peru. and it looks, you can see those waterways again, like I talked before. Waterways in the structure, going here and there. You can see actually the size of it. So there was a fluid going out of this structure. Again, you can see some close-up of those fluid, for the transporting fluid out of the structure because it goes down here. And on top, I talked about some people in another hangout about this, and they said, well, this looks a lot like a fort, like a military fort. Because you have those points. Can everybody see that? Hello?
Yeah.
I can.
Okay, just checking because everybody was so quiet. And probably to you this also seems like a fort with those points. It's very great for military defense.
Sorry, artist, I muted myself so that you could talk, but yeah, I can see it.
Yeah. It looks like a military fort, even
What
from
do you think they are then, those sort of steps? What do you think they are? Just to go around the fort?
basically to defend the thing on top. This is on top the structure with yeah, there was more, but it's gone. You can see there's a lot of pieces missing. Here you can see those lines, those stones lining up. Basically, there were stones taken from this area to later transport them to another area to use as a foundation of churches and other buildings. So basically, they destroyed a lot of these structures, lined up the stones, and took the stones to make other structures in the valley. The Spanish Inquisition also did that. They destroyed a lot of these structures and took the stones from them. So there's a lot of pieces missing. But this was looks like a military defense because they are so pointy and often with ancient defense walls, you see the same type of zigzag lines. But then there's the question, what were they defending themselves against? I don't know that. There's no written history. But it must be very important to defend this structure to the oncoming enemy. But who was the enemy? I don't know. Because this is predating the Inca civilization. And there's no written text about that civilization whatsoever. So there was a huge enemy that they want to prevent from getting in. So who it was, I don't know. Actually, you can see here the doorway, how big it is. This guy basically comes to halfway. So they could easily fit very big persons, almost 10 feet. But that proves they built very high doorways for bigger people. And you can see another view. I just found this view. You can see here these stones lined up. They extracted them from this structure here. Again, you see stones lined up in a row everywhere. Basically, they took them from this site to transport them to build structures of their own. And basically, the people who did that was the Spanish Inquisition, who basically destroyed most of these signs to almost no repair. And this is what's left of it. And if there was any history, it was also destroyed by the Spanish Inquisition. So,
have you aligned that north and south and seen if, like, in any way it's a time dates? Like,
but if you basically, if you have the north, if north is over here, so it's just a bit off. This, if you go back to this, the north is just here, just a bit like this off. It basically goes from this to here. So it's just a bit off to the.
So it's not aligned cardinally.
No, it's a bit off to the east. But what is interesting, this structure is just a bit to the east, almost the same degree as that of those pyramids in Mexico. So this is about, I think, 31 degrees off. Not even, no, 17 degrees off. And those pyramids in Mexico are also 17 degrees off. So that's interesting. I don't know why they're exactly almost the same degree off. And what is also interesting is that if you see those defense lines, it resembles, because it's all to do with liquid and fluid, as I talked before, that it looks a lot like the Aquarius sign, because the wall is also pointy like this Aquarius sign, the Aquarius star sign. So maybe that's why the whole wheel was a bit off, to basically point out that it was related to the Aquarius star sign. Who knows? But maybe they did that on purpose. Here again you can see the water that always is with those structures in Peru, those ancient structures, you always have a liquid flowing out of it or in it or through it. And this is a great picture. So you can actually see that the liquid flows through this structure. And most of the time it's that is the case, that there is liquid flowing through the structure. Here you can again see that big wall of those big stones. And here again you have a hole. Or maybe in this wall, it was to extract water from basically the earth behind it. Because if it rains a lot, it becomes very dredgy, like a swamp. And if you could extract water through this kind of channels, you make sure that the earth stays as dry as possible. So it doesn't contain too much water. So if you would walk on this wall, you basically it would be like a swamp, and you will sucked into it. And this is maybe was used to extract water from this.
That is common practice in today when they build walls, to put like 2-inch PVC piping every like 3-4 feet, just to allow for water behind it to seep out, so it doesn't create a marsh above it and push the wall down.
Yeah, indeed. Thanks for that, Angel. And again, you can see here something missing. It looks like something could be interlocking into this stone, and also here. So you have a lot of walls with pieces missing. This is very, very level and flat, so easily there could be something on top of here that is missing. These are these holes you have already talked about in the structure. Those inverted knobs. And you have them also in walls, big walls in Turkey. Basically, this structure is for about 70% underwater, and this is basically what is still sticking out. But you can see the same type of inverted knobs. Here you can see again those, that looks like almost like a sofa. Those cutouts, and this is again in Turkey, just like this picture is. This is very nearby the next picture. And this is in Turkey, those strange cutout, like almost they are testing their devices, how they work. Here again, this is in Iran, the same kind of thing, inverted knobs, now three very close beside each other, and also they cut out a piece. What maybe they try to hide this wall. So if you have another piece that looks like this with the outsticking knob, you can click it in. And basically you couldn't see nothing anymore. It looks like a normal rock. But I will go to that in a second. Again, those knobs, pieces sticking out. So this almost looks like Lego blocks. If you could fit something against it. Here again, those cutouts. And this is in Greece. This is in Peru. This is in Greece. A lot of similarity. These are just thrown away from another structure and landed on the top, so they are upside down. You can see it broken off. There's a lot of time the case in Peru that the structures are missing the top. And now actually you can see that what happened to the top of one of these structures. It was thrown about 40 meters into the air and landed on its top again. You can see those same extractions from the stone. Like this looks more like they were testing their devices because and also the top is missing here. This piece broken off. Very clear. It goes all the way here. The whole top is again missing. This is in the Pennines, near the Pennines in Athens again. You have same cutout. And this is basically proves that it was not for roof support, but something else. And this is in Bulgaria. Again, knobs, cuts out. And this looks almost like the stone was melted at one point. This is what you get when you also melt plastic. You get that bubbly surface. So that's very interesting. And you have all kinds of pieces lying around. The pieces are broken in lying all over the place. Again, fitting knobs that something else could be fitted on there. This is also, you never know that something could be fitting in here. It's false doorway. You have that also all over the world. This is Amarumuru in Peru. The false doorway, and if you actually stand in there, you can easily be 6'8", and still your head won't. You still will fit in here. And this is the side of this structure. So if this is the front, this is the side view. This basically the structure is. If you climb over here, here is that doorway, and it's very interesting.
It's like a wall.
Yeah.
Old wall.
It's almost like it was pushed, flattened, that some strong force pushed it aside.
You see the diagonal line of how the stones are built up.
Yeah.
Crossing, it's as if one side is pushed up or pushed down. Yeah. And then later on this part.
Yeah, indeed, for sure. Yeah, that's indeed a huge possibility. Thanks for pointing that out, Ceres. I always like when somebody has another view because that helps me see the whole perspective more even clear. This is also near that area. It almost looks like it's almost liquid.
Out of curiosity, which side was that on when looking at the front image that has more of the greenery?
This side?
Yeah, that side.
If you walk,
where is that?
It's over here. So if you walk over here, and then it's over here.
Yeah, the left.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
As far as I know, but that's what I know.
It's quite amazing anyway, but it does look like somebody built the construction into a mountain, and looks very molded or poured like wax, but it's made of rock.
Yeah, it looks almost like the drippings of a candle here. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that's interesting. And this is also a false doorway, and again, on top of you have that looks like it's almost melted in one point. It's even dark. This again a false doorway, only this is in...
Looks like it's encased in that, whatever that is.
Yeah. Picture what you're looking at right there, including like everything you're looking at right there, and then picture somebody's living room in front of it and a chimney up against the wall, including right where you see where it would look like a chimney up against the wall.
Over here, yeah.
Well, that would be the kitchen chimney. I'm talking about the living room chimney.
Oh, here.
Yeah, in the middle.
Yeah. So you have two chimneys there. You're right. That's the kitchen chimney or the master bedroom chimney, and that's the living room or dining room chimney. Probably that would be the master dining room, and that would be the kitchen.
Oh, yeah.
The kitchen got more work.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one was just meant to heat the room, not to cook the stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I see. And somebody built that into the side of a building because they had the technology that they could pour, melt, or mold rock.
I have a picture of this from the side. You can actually see this is also very thin. Yeah, again here you have another hole.
Yeah, now in front of it is probably a big open area where the rest of the structure would have been.
Here. I got the picture. I already thought maybe Angel is gonna ask for this picture, so I tried very hard to find one. Indeed, a very open area.
Wow.
And here,
So whatever it was went the other way then. It didn't go that way. It went to the left. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm sure like the main path from town A to town B was along the side where it looked like you were just looking at rocks. And this person's home was hiding behind a facade of rock.
Mm-hmm.
And was protected from shooting or arrows or whatever by a facade of rock.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense.
So what's the stuff on top then?
I would think if he had the ability to walk around that area, or somebody else walking around that area, we'll probably also find the well shaft and probably a place where they park, and we'll be able to tell their technology whether it's a garage or whether it's a stable.
Yeah.
Hey, you can see also this whole electric storm stuff in sucked away stones, molten stuff.
Yeah. This is almost not recognizable anymore. It's just like a piece of, just like a molted candle, almost.
Did you know that obviously through Chris Monk's work, he thinks that we got all these electrical arkings.
Yeah.
And then when they happened, it might have thrown everything up. And that's how the Grand Canyon happened, because it all got thrown up. And when it landed, that's how the Grand Canyon was formed. But these things were moved with kinetic energy as well, whatever's happened.
But indeed, very strong forces. And also, this is in Portugal. And again, just like in Peru, here you have even 2 small fitting holes. And this was almost what I was thinking, what I showed it to my dad. My dad has also sometimes very interesting answers. And he thought this almost looks like a device where you can put batteries in. If you have an old radio, you have also a clip like this you can get off, and then you put the battery in and click it back on.
Well, what I would see at first glance, and it would just depend on if it would work, is if you poured water into that round hole up at the top there, if it would pour around at shoulder level into that device, and then if it would pour back out at an elevation of the bottom square at the far side, and if so, that's an old-fashioned hot tub where somebody would be pouring warm water into the round hole, and the wastewater would come out the square hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But that's what I see at first glance.
That's great. You have to have the more perspective on a structure, the better.
So, but that would just be as simple as testing, you know, if somebody had a whole bunch of water to pour it into that round hole and see where it goes. And if it spills into there, that's an old-fashioned hot tub that somebody engineered.
Yeah.
Unless there's the division between the 2 rocks, if there's division between them, and then if that's the case, it ain't happening.
Well, this could be a later crack, of course. And then again, here you have also a hole, and
but that hole in those squares, they have a rim around them. They were meant to have a fixture around them, either a seal or a cap or a cover or a door or a pump. That's not organic.
No, because you can you see if maybe I blow it up a little bit. You can see here 2 slides that actually can fit something. Just like if you have a radio, you have that cap you can take off. You can click it back again. So you can click here again, the top back on easily. Cover. Yep. Here again, you have other holes on this side. This is all in Portugal. Again, it looks a lot like the same like those holes in Peru. It's something could be fitted in there, maybe a cover for a hot tub or something else, surrounding structures, maybe all over here.
That particular one, I'd be interested in following the water to see if you fill the highest one exactly how it drips into the next. And if it goes like around in a big circle, you take that exact thing and you put plants that are in a wireframe mesh with soil, and it makes it so you can water everything by only filling one spot, kind of like a hydroponics type thing.
Yep.
But it's really kind of just to follow the circle and see what it is. It could just be simply somebody's really cool garden.
Yeah. Indeed. And here, this is on top. This is a very high stone. You can see that this is that other structure here in the distance. And this is high on top of a stone. So actually, this is, you have a structure beside it they make. So you can look down on this structure. Because you see this house in the distance, basically, this rock is as high as this house. So if you want to climb on this rock, you have to climb basically on the top of this house, this the same height. And again, here you have again those beds or things, and again you have here also an. This is high and this is a bit low. That actually could have been a lid fitted on there very smoothly. That the surface is almost level, because you see this cutout on the angle here. Easily, indeed, could fit a lid on it. Here you have again one. This is the same side with that hole indeed. Where this even has water in it at the moment. Yeah, also now it has rained, so you can see that there's water indeed in those holes. This is basically in the water, so you can see well water. I was also thinking about that water, how it reacts to that kind of structure. Here again, you have those sitting cutout sitting. It almost looks like a sofa. 3 people can sit here. Here again, another cutout. This is in Spain. This actually looks like a little bit like more like a sarcophague. It could fit a human more because you have here the shape of a head, but who knows? Here again, holes in stones that could easily fit something else. And these are again those stairs going up. And this is also in Spain. Here, this is just uncovered. And they think that it was from the Romans, but it also looks again like those stairs and sitting devices. This is in Peru. You can see the similarity between this and this one in Peru, also with holes in that. So maybe it was for a bath, or maybe it was for pouring stones. I found another ones that you could easily see all those holes around. This looks more like it was for fitting another structure on top of it. Here again you have those Ceres. And again this top is missing. You can see it was large at one moment. Probably. This is from the side view, and again stairs going up to the structure. And what is very interesting with this one, so this is on top, and this is from another view. You can see they put the stone off here, but if you look at this line, it goes all the way. All the way. So this rock is one piece of rock, and they put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rocks on top of it, and they fit very tight. You can see they fit very tight. So if this, probably what it looks like, this fits on this structure, and on top of this structure there would possibly fit something else. Only that is missing in this case. Don't you think?
And you see these fences also as if people have fallen off, but they actually had to install them.
Yeah, but you basically see this is one rock or maybe two here's in line, and they fitted 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stones on top of it, and then carved the second stair and everything. And here you have those cutouts, so it could have been that there was something fitting on top of it, but that is missing.
Again, sucked away. Eh?
The railing is current day stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's clear.
But the stairs are all three of the stairs from that time period? Or are any of those retrofit?
Those stairs, as far as I did research, those stairs were always there. I have one old photo, and then the stairs were already in place.
Then if on the edges there look to be like areas of support, I don't know. It's either a really cool park or again somebody built a structure on top of it and that was the foundation.
Yeah.
But this is a really nice somebody's living room and display.
Yeah. But it could have been that there was, because this is a rock and that those rocks fit on top of it, and you can presume that there was something fitting maybe on top of it again, because you can clearly see they are building one staircase, then they put the rocks on top of it, make another one. Maybe there was another staircase going even higher up that is missing.
Could be.
It's just because here you also have knobs.
You got the Lego pieces.
The Lego pieces, and you can see this is broken off. This is almost look like it was melted at some point. Very like you melt plastic. Also over here's also pieces missing again, and this looks like Lego. This also looks like Lego too. Round pieces that there was probably something that could have fit on top of the here that is missing. Because otherwise, why wouldn't you make this? This almost looks like a camera. If you have a camera, you have a stand for a camera. You also have these knobs that you can screw your camera on it.
That would take earthing to a whole new level if you built a whole structure to fit on top of a rock foundation, and your floor, your living room floor, like was earth.
Mm-hmm.
Grounding, earthing, where you pick up the vibrations of Mother Earth, Terra, ground.
Mm-hmm.
That would actually be kind of cool. That would be awesome. Personally, I want to build my house into the side of a mountain, not like Bill Gates did, but like Bill Gates did.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, you have a very strong supporting wall already if you do that. Yeah. Here you have another knob, very rounded, very level. That could have been something fitting on top of this. This could also be the case with this. And also, again, here's the top missing. You can see there's something broken off. There's here something broken. And again, in the distance, you can see almost like it was liquid at one point. Here, over here, also. Very strange weathering here of the stones. Yeah. And this is that one on top.
Mm.
Here again, you have another thing that could fit in here and click it on. And here another piece that you could click on. This is again near that wall I discussed before with those zigzag lines. So this is also looks like there could be fitted something against this, because this is very related. Something clicked on it and put here again.
You see the black stripe there as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Something pouring out or so.
Yeah. And this is just to show you, this is in Pumapunku. can see how much pieces are actually down in the valley that are broken off. And this is almost here, even farther down in the trees, a very huge piece that is fallen down. So this is almost the case with every ancient structure, even in Egypt, in Iran, in Spain, in Peru, in Bolivia. You can see all those shattered pieces all around, because you can see here a very straight line of a piece here again. It is also very clear that it was broken off pieces, very clear. So,
and they don't have to be from the structure on top of it or so. It can be
go back.
Come from somewhere else as well.
Over here?
Just dumped here.
That's wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Does that continue around the whole bottom edge? Is that like a big clearing?
It just the rest is covered with dirt still. So this is what they uncovered. So it's basically, if I can point it out, here it goes. But how far it goes, I'm not sure. It stops at a certain point. So this line basically stops a little bit further. And then you have all kinds of rubble. So maybe this was longer, but it's basically a straight line under this structure.
Okay.
And also interesting that you have these round-shaped things that are a quarter. So you have 4 of them. You have a circle and a globe again around the sphere. And also these things almost fit exactly on top of these. So these blocks fit almost exactly into this. It's also interesting. You can again see here all those pieces lying all around here. Here again you have more blocks. So this may be that gearing system.
Coming out of those, yeah.
Yeah, you can see here again all type of holes here that could fit other things. Here the pieces are lying around. Here the blocks are lying around. Again, a structure that with all kinds of pieces of the structure lying all around, even till here. So this is even a block. So all the way over there. So that's maybe at one point there was a big cataclysm or something.
Yeah, that's so indicating that.
Yeah. Here again you have the knobs. Maybe there could be fitted something over here. Maybe this was once used as a clock that the shadows would present the seasons. Who knows?
Little star on the bottom.
Yeah, indeed. Here. And here have also a thing that could fit something else. Here actually a piece. And it looks like a star indeed. Yeah. And also going down a bit here. Yeah. Very interesting. Here's side view of basically maybe this was a block that should be fitted over here, because again you have a cutout that could be fitting on top. Here again you have a block from the structure. Here there are those blocks in a row that I showed before. And this is also a stone. You can see there's some. It fits on the other stone, just to show you that you have stones that almost looks like an whole stone, only there's fitted something on top of it. So who knows that at one point there was fitting something in front of it, so that they could use it and get the front away and hide it from the enemy. So if they used it as some sort of device, you put again the other side of the rock against it, it looks like a normal rock. Only if you open it, you see this. And that maybe this is the case with this rock. Nearby, if you see, you can get this top piece off, and maybe there's under it there's something of a device they could use. It's a possibility. And this is basically the cataclysm that happened in Peru. You can see this is a strike, very big, iron rich most of the time. In this case, this is iron rich. Often, if you zoom in, you can see that they extract iron from it, or metals. Basically, the strike goes here, through the mountains, all the way down, further down, further down. You can see the ground is even bubbling, like it is boiling over here.
Yeah.
Further down, and not look. It's almost like the ground is boiling and rippling aside. You push the mountains aside with a strong force. And basically, it ends over here. Here. Yeah. This is
So
about.
it reminds me of what was under the Twin Towers.
Yeah. And then here you can see maybe what was under the Twin Towers. Yeah. And basically here the end strikes, and then you have a big salt lake. And that's often the case. Very nearby where the strike ends. So here you have that iron rich mountain. Then the strike goes here all the way down. This is in Peru, for people who want to know where it is. And then you have one of the biggest salt lakes in the world. And that's basically in whole. So you have a high mountain and a big long strike. And you can see that the mountain almost looks like they're pushed aside here, a rippling effect even. And
As if it is blubber. It's really.
Yeah, like it's mud. Yeah, like it's all liquid. And this is 18 miles, so you can see how the size of this lake is. 18 miles is this from this point to this point. You have an estimate of the size. And this is the whole strike zone, basically. This is something else. You can actually measure some things, but I have to. Those shapes some of those shapes in the stones can actually be a flower or an animal. I have to look further into that. I'm just still investigating that. But people are measuring the angles and everything, what it maybe could represent. That's
8 stones in multiples of 8. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, this is a wall.
Yeah, this is a wall in Peru.
Yeah.
So they are still already people measuring the lines, if it relates to star signs in the skies, or it is a certain kind of shape of an animal. So this was basically the presentation.
It's more like a flower.
Yeah, that's what I was.
Yeah, more like a flower.
Okay.
Indeed, yeah. The flower of life, Ceres. Who knows? This was basically my presentation. If you have any questions, more questions, I'm happy to answer them. Even if people in the chat have questions, I'm also happy to answer them. And there's never a wrong question in this case. Think, well, it looks like this or that. Just say it. Because sometimes the question that you think, well, that's too far-fetched, is actually the right question that helps me further with my investigation. So anybody on the panel, anybody in the Hangout chat?
Anybody in the panel, what do you think that artist is looking at then, or what he's been showing?
Yeah, if you ask me, you know these regions with these pillars. What is it? Devil's Mountain, for example.
Mm-hmm.
That cutting those stones and actually use them as wall stones.
Yeah.
Save you a lot of measuring and etc. because it's already perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I know right now a lot of what we can do is vicariously through all the photos and pictures of other people have taken in time to go and do the photographing of. But as time goes on through history, I would like that we could get samples of the rock and find out which ones are truly real rock. And now that we know that we have the ability to manufacture rock and fabricate things,
yes,
find out which ones are poured, and we can actually start to build a truer history or a truer knowledge of where we are compared to what was known in the past. You know, if we can document that somebody was doing something that we just recently discovered how to do, it shows that there were, black and white, can't say there weren't, people of higher knowledge, not necessarily higher intelligence, but higher knowledge at a point in the past. We are just learning what at one point somebody already knew. And in some cases, that some of these knowledges have been intentionally suppressed.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me that they try to hide or suppress the knowledge as much as possible. Because what is also interesting, that what they did, I also talked about it a little bit, they tried to build churches. They built a lot of churches on ancient sites on top. Here, this is in Beirut, Lebanon. They built a church on top of an old monolithic site.
They built churches on ley lines as well, huh? You might wonder if ley lines have to do anything with this.
For sure, because if you build a church on top of an ancient structure that is already there, you build probably right on a ley line. That's the chances are very high because most ancient structures are built on ley lines. And this is in Beirut, Lebanon. This we have another structure. This is the old ancient wall, basically, and they built a church on top of it. And this is in Ceres in Peru. Here, this is the ancient structure. And they built a church on top of it. Here again, an ancient structure in Peru. And they built this was basically the graveyard of the church. You can still see a cross over here. This was the graveyard of the church. And they cleaned out the graveyards because this church was empty. And then they found this ancient structure beneath it. And here you get, this is a near structure. They built it on probably an ancient site. Here, this wall, this whole wall is an old wall. You can clearly see this is an Inca wall. They built a church on top of it. Look, this is very clear. Those walls I showed before with those false doorways. And they built a church on top of it. Even the inside, you can see those walls still. They just basically used a monolithic wall, built a church on top of it. And this is near that site. This is just partially destroyed. You can see a lot of things are broken off. This is the church in the distance with the wall and the ancient structures around it. Basically, this is very clear. They built it on top of an ancient structure. And you have also those other stones lying around with, again, those cutouts in the stones. There's also here. Okay, here you have one. And you have in the wall, you have one here. This is the wall behind it. And again, you can see shapes again in this because these are bigger stones, smaller stones. I'm still trying to figure out here again. You have a flower pattern, just like I showed before. Here. And this is built again. This the stair I showed before. That is needed. And the top is blown off. The top is missing, like in all those structures. And you can see here, it's always those cutouts in the stones, almost in this kind of stone that is a little bit bluish or purplish, just like this. And around that you have those ancient structures. So maybe this structure is predating this structure. So you have this structure, this wall, and then on top of the wall, the newer church. Again, you can clearly see that they built it on an ancient wall. Here again is another church, an ancient wall. Inside, here another.
That is really weird, isn't it? That a lot of these structures are built on top of old walls or part of something else.
Well, it's handy because if you want to build a church on a very solid foundation, to make it last as long as possible, you basically build it on an ancient site because those ancient sites have very...
they survived.
yeah, they survived and had very strong foundations. And they saw that, well, this is a very old structure. They survived, like Ceres said. So they are so strong. If we build a church on top, we are safe. The chances of the foundation shifting or moving are slim to none. So it's also very smart to build a church on top of an ancient site because you have a very solid, strong foundation. And it's also maybe it has a spiritual. It was used for a spiritual purpose. So if you build a church on that, the spiritual frequency of that place is already there. So that's also handy if you have an old site. It's always on a ley line, like Ceres said, or it was an ancient worshipping place or something with a lot of energy in it. And if you build a church on that, you get also that energy in your church. So that enhances spirit.
Yeah, that's why religion works so good.
Yeah.
Because the buildings were designed for that.
Yeah. Indeed. Yeah, you can see that ancient wall very clear. A predating Inca wall with a doorway. And again, here you see the repair by the Incas. And on top of that, you have the church. And I showed this. Yeah. This one is also very interesting. This corner is still that wall. And they used that corner. It was already there. So why destroy it? No, just use it and build the rest of it around it. Or maybe they extracted this stone from a wall and moved it over here. That's also a possibility, of course. But they had to number.
Maybe it was better foundations, aren't they?
Yeah, for sure. Those are very great foundations to build a church on top, for sure. So this is what I just discovered. I basically was searching and I typed in churches on top of monolithic structures. And then I got a whole lot of pictures. This is basically a church in, I'm just Lebanon, probably Lebanese. Yeah, Lebanese city of Tyre. And you can see a monolithic structure.
It's inside the
church.
it. Yeah.
And this is basically a wall. This is one part of the wall, and this is just inside the church. So that's very interesting. And then this also, you can see this monolithic wall here, and the church is built on top of it. Here also the old wall. This staircase is newer, you can clearly see this. And okay, again, also pieces lying around. Here, all those blocks that fall off this wall because they have the same color, the darker color. One time they were on top of this wall and fallen down of the structure. Again, you can see pieces missing. They built on this monolithic wall, clearly. They built a church. So this was about that subject that a lot of worshipping places, churches are built on ancient monolithic sites. So if somebody sees a church and thinks, hey, that's a...
Yes, can I say something? With all the stuff that you've looked into, I probably never noticed that there was all those different levels in buildings before. But I will now.
Yeah. Yeah, so next time if you go to a church, pay attention to the outside and the inside and to the stones.
Chris has just joined us now, and we're trying to get Flat Trotters on, but he always has a problem.
Yeah.
Maybe the link works.
So if other people in the chat, so if other people in the chat or other people seeing this later on have other pictures of churches on monolithic sites, please send them to. Is it all right if they send them to you, Karen, and then you send them to me?
Artist, that's artist's food. He eats. Love them.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. But if somebody else has pictures, would like to, you can also put your link under this video when it uploads, and then says put the link of the structure under it, so I can click on it and find the structure. That's also a handy possibility. And I'm very happy to see more pictures of churches built on other structures built on monolithic sites.
What is he saying is if anybody has got anything that they found or want to share, send it over to me to send to artists.
Yeah. Thank you, Karen.
Artists. Thank you, artists. Artists have spent hours looking at all this stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Everything in flat Earth takes hours, doesn't it?
Yeah, it takes hours and days of research to find the good pictures, because often they have very small pictures. You can't see any detail or distinguish between certain stones. So I try to get the best pictures as possible. Sometimes it's very hard to find them.
You're going to get buildings mended, aren't you, at different times? I mean, you know, people today build extensions onto Victorian houses. You're going to get different structures, but there's quite a few different stones in that building there you can see, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Basically, the very old monolithic predating the Inca, and then the stairs and the things of the church they added later. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's very interesting that you have a lot of structures on top of each other.
You know, sometimes people invaded, didn't they? And so changed a bit due to the people who came and took over.
Yeah.
You're going to get things like that, aren't you? Some of it is natural change in the fact that it's changed over the years.
Mm-hmm.
I think that stones, I mean, golly, how did they get them there? It has to be a technique.
Yeah, that's a big question. How did they do it?
Have you got anything more to show us now, artist?
Well, this is basically that, but I have.
You said 10 minutes, artist. You were going a bit longer than that, but that's cool.
Yeah, indeed.
We're always amazed at your hard work at research.
Yeah.
He's on. Where is he?
Cheers, everybody.
Hey, man.
Good evening.
Hey, he's here. I've just spent the last, 20 minutes, half an hour trying to get him on. So it's Ceres has to do it.
Yes,
Ceres
it
has
is.
to add you.
Yep.
Well, I have.
Yeah, you guys carry on. As you were saying, I missed part of the show because I was trying to get online. So just carry on. I'll interject when I need to.
If you look at that building, look at the building, artist is moving on now.
Yeah, I want to show a NASA document I found. Basically, thanks to Pancho Pete. So Pancho Pete, thanks. He was showing them a video of a German guy talking about this, and basically asked me to translate it. And then I found this article again in the Wayback Machine. And it's basically from NASA, but what is the most interesting is if you skip to this document of NASA, it's a NASA reference publication 1207 from 1988. Basically, it tells nest flying over flat, non-rotating Earth. Flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Flying over flat, non-rotating Earth. So that's very interesting that NASA, all through this document, talks about a flat, non-rotating Earth. Just some extra information. Yeah, that's I thought that is strange. They talk about in this document they do all their calculation over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Why call it that?
Strange words, aren't they? Considering it's supposed to be NASA and we're a ball.
Yeah, they should be saying our calculations are around a spherical, rotating globe. But they have in their text all the time a flat, non-rotating Earth. They do the calculations over. Flying over a flat, rotating Earth. So that's interesting. And if you want to get this, it's basically in this Wayback Machine. And if you type in flat, non-rotating, you get this document. And then you can type in flat, non-rotating Earth, and you get all these hits. Or in NASA documents that talk about a flat, non-rotating Earth. So, yeah.
Because it is.
Yeah. Well, basically, all those, a lot of the NASA documents talk about the flat, non-rotating Earth when they do the calculation. And at first, they do the calculation on the flat, non-rotating Earth, and then sometimes later in their calculation, they convert it to a globe perspective. But they always start with the flat, non-rotating Earth, and they convert it and shape it into a globe. Why do you start first with as a flat, non-rotating thing, and then convert it to a globe if, in their opinion, it is a globe? You start with a globe and then maybe convert it to a flat, non-rotating thing, but not the other way around. That's ridiculous, in my opinion. So that this proves for me that they do all their calculation on start with a flat, non-rotating Earth, and they shape it into a globe that is rotating later on. Yeah.
Which is crazy.
This is crazy, indeed. But they basically said them themselves now that they calculate over the third hand over a flat, non-rotating Earth. So they say themselves it's a flat, non-rotating Earth in 1988.
I wonder if the Navy or ocean navigation, if there's any documents that would say the same thing for the water.
You have navigational documents also that they also state a flat Earth.
Nothing works without the actual calculations based on reality.
Mm-hmm. Are these documents
Otherwise
for chasing weather balloons, or are they documents for sending spaceships to outer space?
This is their
linear aircraft model.
Of a definition of a linear aircraft model.
Okay, so they're just talking about flight in general.
Yeah.
And NASA's got a couple planes, or airplanes. Mm-hmm. So I could understand why they would be using that, the flight patterns.
So the idea is the reason they start on a flat Earth model is because they actually want to be able to do the math and get the true calculations of getting from point A to point B and how to get there most efficiently. Mm-hmm. And then they convert it because they have to be able to convert it to the cover story, but still stay within some realm of reality. And if we were talking here about space shuttle stuff or pre-space shuttle stuff, I'd say this is like arguing whether they sewed Santa Claus onto the T-shirt or whether they silk screened it onto his thing. So, because the space flights themselves are irrelevant. But if this is about flight in general, I can understand it actually being true, or at least the math.
Yes.
Yeah, they get the math to support everything, and then they manipulate it to fit the narrative.
And even in this document, they even don't convert it into a globe model. till the last page, they stay on that flat non-rotating Earth model. To the last page. And that's
Exactly. Right.
And sometimes in other documents, they
in Owen's failure with his experiment, that with the catching up of the speed of the bubble, that you use actually exactly the same math, but you orientate the beginning point on something else. Instead of you taking the 40,000 kilometers of the equator's circumference, you actually take the bubble circumference itself through the speed it turns. Instead of you calculating the speed through the distance, you actually calculate the distance through the speed. The other way around. It's exactly the same formula, but your orientation is different. So the math is always right, but yeah, it doesn't say if your beginning point is actually the right one.
Agreed.
So yeah, the math won't lie, you know, but yeah, it's just how you grasp it.
The Josh or Trotters wants to say something because I can hear them putting their microphones on and off. Which one of you wants to say something?
I said what I had to say. I said I agree with you. Siri, absolutely. Yep, spot on.
Oh, cool.
I also found another document, but I think somebody else already showed this one. It's, somebody would give you $500, I think in the 60s, for proving that you could prove that the Earth was actually a globe. And that money was never collected because nobody could disprove it. So that's also interesting. $500, and it was, I don't know what date, but I think it was in the early 60s, maybe late 50s. Wilbur Glenn, who claims the Earth is flat, and offers $5,000 for proof of the contrary. And that money was never collected. So nobody could disprove him. So it's also interesting that some people also do now say, if you can prove it, I can give you money. Some people did that bet, I think, on the internet. But even way back in the 60s, there was a guy that was offering $5,000. There was a lot of money in that time for proving the contrary. And nobody could prove it. So this is also another proof. That's why those old newspapers are so fun to read, that you can actually see those things reoccurring. So that's another document. And just for yeah, just for,
oh my goodness.
What is? Just for Karen, and just one more time for Karen, because we like Karen. We show that the one that you could actually be sent to jail if you talk about.
Oh yes, that's my favorite one.
Yeah, I know. That's why I'm going to show it again.
Is that Cook County, Illinois?
Oh, sorry, my screen just did a strange thing. Oh. Cook County Herald, Grand Marias, Minnesota, Saturday, April the 22nd, 1900. So I don't know from.
But this dispels this all this time when they said 300-400 years ago we were a ball. It's a load of rubbish.
Yep. It was basically in the Constitution. I think this is in Minnesota. I don't know exactly from Minnesota. It says the same. But
if you ask me, instead of convicting the guy, they actually scrapped the law.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because the law was there to be used, and somebody used it.
Somebody used it because he wasn't satisfied that a teacher basically taught about the globe Earth at school, and he and probably a lot of other people were upset about it, and knew the law and said, well, in the law it states that if you teach about the globe Earth at school, you can be sent to prison or get a heavy fine. Because so this proves there were still a lot of people around, and it was even in the law back then, that if you talked about the globe Earth and thought about the globe Earth at school, basically it was a crime. So, and you could be thrown into prison.
Sort of like a thought crime, thought police, right?
But I just wanted to show that one again.
It's really crazy when they stand there on the news and you've got all those presidents and you've got all those people and they want to declare that it's hundreds of years ago that we were a ball, and they know things like that exist. It's sick.
Yeah, it's sick. They lie about so much. It's it's painful sometimes to see it.
But absolute proof that we are flat, and we're flat. And as artists has really looked at this, it's something that happened in the 60s, isn't it?
Yeah, around the 60s. That's the time period they
went, because I think they probably had us in Vietnam. There was probably some other things going on at the time, because I think in the 1963, when I was born, my mum said that they were threatening that nuclear bombs were going over to Korea and stuff like that. So everybody was a bit worried about another great big war. Not that it wasn't bad, but all this is going on. So it was obviously a build up. So it took their minds off everything, didn't they?
Yeah.
Well, they did it.
And just for good measurements, I can show you another document of our friends from NASA. This is a technical note.
NASA, they need to go.
And then you basically you can download this PDF and then type in flat Earth and see what happens. Flat Earth.
How they could sit there pretending that they've gone to the moon and they've got
freedom simulation, open a flat Earth. Next, flat Earth. Flat Earth. Flat Earth. Then also in the documents, a lot of the time they show flat Earth, flat Earth. You have also navigational documents, and they state the same flat, non-rotating Earth, flat Earth, calculations over a flat plane, all that kind of things. So if you look in all documents and download the PDF on the Wayback Machine, basically at archive.org, and you type in flat Earth, and then you download the PDF and you type in flat Earth or non-rotating as one word. You can see all those words popping up basically in all documents. So way back then, in a lot of old documents, you can see they stated always that it was a flat, non-rotating Earth. So that for me is, again, a lot of proof that we are living on a flat, non-rotating plane.
So what does everybody on the panel think that, we were changed into a ball in the 60s? Everybody, it's a bit quiet there on the panel. There's loads of people there.
Here in the U.S., I'd like to offer up the Department of Education.
Yeah.
Sorry, what did you mean? What did you mean, Angel?
I believe it was Jimmy Carter had signed in the Department of Education, and Ronald Reagan, from what I understand, I was a wee little didn't care about politics person at the time, but ran on the whole, I'll squish the Department of Education, kind of like how Trump said, I'll squish the the healthcare, which is a play on words in itself. I've already gotten into that. It's a medical care. Health is, knowledge of how to stay healthy. But the Department of Education gave a blanket, this is what you will know and this is when you will know it, stream, and gave the foundation for what is now Common Core, which from what I understand is the same curriculum they're pushing in your neck of the woods under the name Common Core. So that whoever it is, they're all our wonderful youngins are all going to have the same mindset, the same delusion. And then probably in a wave or two, they'll have it where we're all speaking some language like Esperanto. So I don't know if you actually speak Esperanto, but I know it was a failed language that they tried to pump out.
Oh, we haven't just lost Flat Trotters, have we? All that effort to get him in, he's back now.
Yeah.
Hey.
Wasn't that in the 60s that they started at Esperanto, or earlier?
Yeah, Esperanto, the intention was, my understanding of the intention was, they wanted a language which was a common language so that the scientists and the doctors could speak amongst themselves without one language being the preferred language, and this whole PC stuff. And it went nowhere. But I think it was the back door for making the metric system into the US system, because that kind of came out of it. And I really think in the bigger picture, they needed a way to blend the metric system in, because throughout history, the metric system and what we call the English foot here in the US, even though I don't think the UK had anything to do with generating the measurement we call a foot today. But either way, those two measurements have been a stable measurement throughout history, a lot longer than we want to give it credit for.
Well, in the 60s, or was that? Oh, I can't remember. It was like 1971 or something. We went from the old money to the new, what we call the newer money. The what do you call it? The farthings and all that.
1933, they switched
The
over to
sixpence.
the federal.
They took out the sixpence. I don't think that had anything to do with flat Earth. That was just them making money less than it was, wasn't it? I remember as a kid, like even a few pence, you could get some sweeties. What can you get for a few pence today? Nothing really, nothing.
This is true, but I don't know about over on your side of the pond, but on our side, we switched out the money when they started to make the money not have any actual value, like a quarter, what we call a quarter today.
Bank is on holiday.
I don't think it really has any true value. I know our pennies are zinc coated.
Legal tender, backed by nothing. Backed by nothing, and then backed by the country's economy.
Right.
It's either nothing or the country,
When a penny was a slug of copper, it actually had more value today than a penny. So the physical, tangible thing became more valuable than its value, which is kind of what is supposed to keep inflation from happening, is when that is based on something tangible. And now all our money is money. I wouldn't be surprised if down the road they start printing them out of some epoxy and say, here's the new coins if you want to use coins, and they're just epoxy things, so they're light little slivers, or something. We've gone so far from having our money having value it's all perceived value. It's all entrusted value. It's all fake value. But you know, that's part of the schooling. It's part of the indoctrination. It's part of the if everyone is taught the same way, then when somebody tries to tell you the truth, you look at them like they have 2 or 3 heads, because, you know, I'm telling you, those lines in the sky that don't go away all afternoon, that's not condensation. No, it is. I read it in the newspaper. Snoop says so. It's hard to talk to people sometimes.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
What I often do is first talk about the car they are waxing. Just this Sunday, somebody was washing his car outside. And I say, "Oh, that's a nice shiny car. Yeah, it's a BMW 7 Series model and everything." And then I say, "Is it electric one or is it still gasoline?" I say, "No, gasoline." Oh. I say, what do you think that actually was the first electric car was made? Oh, 1980s, 1990s, maybe. No, I said 1910. What? He said that early. And he grabbed his phone and typed in electric car, 1910. And all those old articles from the automobile industry popped up. And then, oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Oh, you know a lot. Then they say, oh, you know a lot about history. They say, yeah, type in this, the flat Earth, 100 proof the Earth is flat. That old document. And then, oh, the Earth is flat. Oh, that's also interesting. And I build it up little by little. First start with cars, and then you see they interested in history, and they open to that. Then you put in the flat Earth thing, and then also put it in their minds to research. So that's how how I do it. If I try to get the flat Earth over to somebody, first talk about a little lighter subject, and then slowly into the flat Earth discussion.
That's a good technique.
Yeah.
Giving them like a truth bomb.
Yeah.
And you just kind of walk them through the way. You're kind of spoon feeding them, but you're really not.
Yeah.
You get them to think about the idea of it being stationary, and the rest is up to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, good work, man.
Yeah. And that's why I start with those electric cars. It's a little bit lighter subject, and they know that they exist. And then after that, you do the flat Earth, and then sometimes they come back to you. Oh, yeah, I researched it, a lot of stuff, a lot of things on the internet, and yeah, that's how you make people curious. First start with a light subject, and then if you see they're open to that and want to talk about ancient stuff, then talk about the flat Earth. Yeah.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thanks, man.
I've been listening to Ian Too's channel for a while, and he figured out a few things in several, CFR code stuff, and explains a lot about what actually happened in the banking world. Practically, the bank is in holiday, on vacation, and it doesn't function till the day of today. And that's actually the situation where we deal with, where everything of the money system is just out of the the Federal Reserve notes, and the Federal Reserve note has no value. It is that particular legal tender. And when you talk about a Federal Reserve bank note, that is the actual value thing, what is recognized within the system. And since 1933, they are politically have put the banks in holiday, and they're still in a war system, or war mode. know the name anymore. The country isn't in peace state, so the president itself functions actually as the head of the military instead of the civilian role, and he switches between them constantly.
Yeah, I don't remember the dates. Someone threw it up back a few months ago in the chat when we've been under martial law for a long time.
Martial law, yeah.
Yep. Well, we've been under martial law for a long time. I think it's even a civil war. I think someone even said it goes back further than that. That's
since the Second World War, or this is the First
World War. Like that, yeah.
First World War.
We've been under a state of emergency. Correct. I'm correct. Not martial law. A state of emergency, which is essentially the same thing.
Yeah, it never turned back to the normal state, and people think we're back in a normal state. But in the meanwhile, we're only working with legal tender in instead of actual values and decent system to actually work with. This is where that whole story of the TDA accounts come from, and the one people trust. And there's, I heard something like that you can count $300,000 a year since your 18th. What is put on that particular TDA account, and there are several protocols to go through before you can get access to it, but you have the right, and they are there. And yeah, these procedures are kind of complex, hidden away within the CFR rules and the UCC rules, and you can find it back, but you need to study it and realize how these stuff work, because you need to get your head first out of the fantasy, what you think it is, and then realize what it actually is. And that takes a little bit of study. Not many people are happy to do, probably, because it takes a lot of your energy to get out of your dreams and get into reality. Yeah, kind of confronting issue.
Do any discovery?
And yeah, it's not enough to think you are free. You have actually to do the action of taking your freedom back. You can't be the adult without claiming you're adult, of being an adult. And as long as you don't, you're considered a minor. No matter if you're older than 18. Normally, logically, you would think, well, I'm 18, so I'm an adult now. They would know. But yeah, they know, but you have to claim it yourself first to actually get that recognition from them. And as long as you don't do that, you can play what you want, but yeah, you never actually claimed yourself in that sense. And it has also to do with your birth certificate and ties into that stuff. I would suggest to study his material, Eon 2. Yes, also Eon 1. And yeah, it's just wonderful what this guy has figured out. And yeah, many people have questions, of course, etc., etc. But it's kind of doing your own study to actually get this in your own system to work with, so because you can actually defend yourself within this rule system, or get to own yourself in literal sense, stepping out of this slavery system, etc., etc. That you're no longer owned by your state, but actually stepped out of that corporation and deregister your house, deregister your car, that you can drive without license, etc., etc. That you actually own everything what is yours.
Careful with that drive. Yeah. That's a trap. You're not a driver, because then you're in operation of a commercial vehicle. You need to be a traveler.
You're a traveler. Yeah. Because yeah, that's the recognition of the words. Yeah, that's why they try to fool you in all the time.
Yeah, they caught me up in court one day. I was standing on the Traveler, and they asked me, was I in operation of the vehicle, and I said, define operation of the vehicle. And I said, were you in control? Did you have the wheel of the vehicle in your hands? I didn't know what to say, so I said, yup, and it knocked everything that I was trying to build up down. Just that right there, just killed everything I was trying to build up.
What are you showing now?
What I'm now showing, yeah, that's interesting. I'm just going to my documents, and this is the second edition, The Alignment of the World by John G. Albizard. This book contains proof that the Earth is flat and stationary, while the sun and moon and stars are in constant motion. Also letters showing the testimony of the scripture and on this subject from 1912. So, and it's a second edition, so it was a popular print, or they printed the second edition. So even back in 1912, there was a guy that wrote a book that contains proof that the Earth is flat and stationary. So there's some extra proof that there are a lot of old books that talk about the flat stationary Earth. And I just always...
You have to hunt for it though, don't you, artists?
Yeah, they try to hide it as much as possible. You have to search for hours on the internet to find the good stuff, because they don't want us to find it. They try as hard as possible. But basically go to old archive sites and type in flat Earth or flat Earth with a stripe between it, or flat Earth as just one word, of non-rotating as one word, or non and then a space and rotating as one word, or rotating non-flat Earth, or flat Earth non-rotating. All kinds of different things you have to type in the search engine of old archive sites. And then sometimes if you type something else in a different order, you get the document. And otherwise you won't find it. So you have to be very handy and imaginable to type in all kinds of different words in different orders. That's what I always do. That's even when I research for ancient sites. I type in sometimes Peru, monolithic structure, Ollantaytambo, and I find other pictures. Then I type in Ollantaytambo and Peru.
And a different order.
In a different order. That if you type things in a different order on archive sites or even on Google, you get different pictures.
Could be the way they store their actual images and name their images.
Yeah, indeed.
So you have the other way around is fitting better.
Yeah. So always play with those words a bit in the order you type them in. So therefore you can find other documents. Because I had somebody said, "Oh, I can't find the document," and I say, "Yeah, you have to type in like this, and then it pops up in the front."
Yeah, and then still everyone gets their own unique selection, so as if they're kind of that advertisement directive they use to trace what your interest is.
Yeah, but I type in so much flat Earth stuff that it always pops up very high now.
Yeah. It's kind of the same with YouTube now.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. I've seen that if you type in certain subjects, they often when you do Google, you open your YouTube, then already it's full of flat Earth stuff, because they remember it remembers what the names and things you typed in the last time was. So the next time you open YouTube, it's full of flat Earth stuff and ancient structures. In my case.
Hidden, all hidden away, is it? Sort of like it's not the easiest to find, is it? All this stuff.
No, none of it. You have to be very inventive in the ways you search.
It's all marketing analysis, basically. You know, their recon work, their surveying. They can tell by the trends how the mentality is going to be, how thoughts are going to play out. They can drive that force. You can watch it and prepare ahead of time. Already got things set up. That's without any documentation on my part. That's just theories I have.
Yeah, for sure.
Kind of muting yourself.
Well, some things aren't even going to be labeled as to what they are because people don't even know what they are. Like the big rock wall that we were looking at a few weeks ago. Some people, it's just a annoying rock wall that's in their backyard. And to other people, it's a rock wall that goes on for thousands of miles.
Yeah, indeed. Just like you said some time ago, look at this structure. But there's a very interesting pile of dirt over there with stone. No, don't look at that. We have built this structure. Even though it's fake, just look at that. Just like Stonehenge, because Stonehenge is by far not the interesting stone alignment and the structure there is in the UK. There are a lot of other big monolithic structures in the UK that are, I think, even more interesting than the fake Stonehenge.
True. However, Stonehenge itself, supposedly, and I've not been out there like looking at stars on the right nights, but supposedly people have gone out there like science channels and stuff. And on certain nights in certain positions, which seem to be the epicenter of the structure, you can see major constellations align with fairly visibly what looks to be an alignment of pointing out. Now, if this is true, when Stonehenge was rebuilt in the 1950s by the Druids, is what I understand.
And 1940s and 1920s.
Right. Whenever it was.
To my knowledge, they rebuilt it 3 times. So.
Whenever the exact dates they rebuilt it, and maybe they had to rebuild it once or twice because they messed up once or twice because they got the math wrong. Yeah. I do think that the Druids are kind of on the same level as the Templar and the Priory and all these other people, where they may know a little bit more about how to read the like where I look at the Antikythera device and I'm amazed by it. They may look at it and say like, "Oh yeah, we were taught that in 2nd grade," you know. So it may be that they do know something and they did stick it there, and it may itself actually be accurate. And although it may not be current day, it could be documentation that there are people that know something and they're not really telling us everything they know, and they're kind of rubbing it in our face. And yes, they want to point at that one because they could turn around later and say, "Oh yeah, we made that, so it's a spoof." But even if it turned out to be a spoof, they still did a good job, supposedly, of getting the correct orientations in the right spot, just like the Coral Castle in Florida does. And Ed Lee Scallon isn't from millions of years ago, but he did a really good job of having that structure point out the correct the correct constellations in the right spots in the sky at the right
correct
time.
Alignments. He did a great job in doing that, yeah, for sure.
So it shows that there's a knowledge of this stuff. There is a way to calculate it, and this is not something that we needed NASA to figure out. People have known this for very long amounts of time, and it is kind of hidden to us. It's not truly, it's hidden behind a ball and sugar-coated with gravity.
Are you headed towards the astrolabe? How they figured it out without They would use the astrolabe and figure out where the positions were going to be, and then they would just build around that.
They could do that, but even that shows that there's a calculation to figure out all these orientations of the celestial bodies. And as I believe it has been pretty well documented, the globe model doesn't truly show the true orientation. It's close, but there are mistakes, which is why we can point out its inaccuracies. You know, even the astrolabe, even the Antikythera device, even a couple of other things, it's very close. They all give you a roundabout of when things are going to be, but at least those devices, to my understanding, are more accurate than some of our calculations that we have that are computer generated, because the computer generated ones are assuming the ball model, the sphere model, and they don't truly project where certain things are supposed to be in the sky. To my understanding, I don't play with them as much as other people do, but I know during this whole eclipse deal, just a couple of months ago, the eclipse came in from everyone knows, the moon came in from the wrong angle according to how the model says it should have.
Yeah, constantly.
Which is why I do believe I do believe we are looking at a projection.
Yeah, we're dealing with a personal projection.
Yeah, I do, and it could be that it is coming in from the right angle, correct angle, but since it's coming through a prism, we see it from the wrong angle. But the way it's described to us is in the ball model, because that's how the math works. But it may not be in a ball model in reality. Not what reality shows. So, it's like trying to talk to somebody that's not a flat earther. I kind of have to tiptoe over words to use, because sometimes you confuse them and then you lose them.
Wanted to jump back with you here, Ricky's, when you were talking about that you had some kind of inclination that the Druids were on par with, the Masons, I guess, right? The Illuminati. I think you were heading towards that way.
The knowledge I'm assuming that in their history, since they go back and they retain their heritage, things that would be stored in a place like the over in Rome, the libraries over there, that would probably be things that are squashed to the normal person, are probably older books of, hey, how we really do stuff.
I've been reading the last 4 days. You can get up Google Images, type in pilgrim, type in witch, type in wizard, type in nun, type in priest. Look at all the clothing. Look at all the symbolism. They all match up. Type in druid, type in sorcerer.
Oh, yeah, indeed. Those symbols all match up. They use this. Yeah. They use a lot of the same symbols, indeed. And often that symbols that fit into an hexagonal shape. That's maybe why it's called an hexagon, because you can do a hex spell in it. And also witches in Dutch are called hex. So if you say the translations for witch in the Dutch language and in the German language is hex. Or maybe that also ties in the hexagonal shape that they use for a lot of symbolism. And also they use it for casting spells. So you're absolutely right about that, yeah. Those symbolism look a lot alike.
Yeah, the clothing looks a lot alike too.
Yep.
Just so you're aware, You probably already are, but before there was the witch and wizard hat, there was the dunce cap. Right? Look up dunce cap origin. You'll come across a story. There might be several stories, but I came across some story that this guy or this kid or something was, I think it was in the 1800s, maybe 19. I can't remember. I got it on my screen. I can't share it on the tablet. Just look up dunce cap origin. You should come across a story where this is how the dunce cap, the pointy hat, became kind of mainstreamish. That opposed to, I read a long time ago. It was mathematically designed to increase knowledge or to increase the knowledge gained through kind of if you know anything about osmosis. It's like you take a book and you put it on your stomach. You're supposed to be able to learn from that. It's kind of like the old thing of I'll sleep on it. You put your head on the book and you go to sleep. So you learn through the book while you're sleeping. Old type osmosis.
You're breaking up a little bit, Chris. We can't quite hear you.
Yeah, those last three sentences were almost unhearable. So if you could say
if you're muting yourself with your own words.
Yeah.
Well, if you look up, did you get osmosis? Did you guys catch that word?
Yeah.
So the witch's hat, dunce cap, the wizard's hat, they're all pointy and cone, not pyramid block, but cone, smooth.
I bet you they're probably designed to pick up like an antenna the vibrations of all the other minds in the room, which would make sense why a wizard would wear it, because he wants to sense what everyone is feeling, the general census, so he can work the crowd better. And the dunce wants to pick it up so they get a feeling of what the general consensus is of what everyone in the room is understanding, like the 100th monkey. He's supposed to be the 101st monkey just by understanding what everyone else is understanding.
Yeah, something like that. Yep. Yeah, exactly. There's if you look at the pilgrims, if you type in like pilgrim witch or pilgrim wizard or witch pilgrim, wizard pilgrim, you'll see the mind lock on the hat, the belt buckle, the mind lock. Shows at what level they have a knowledge, if you know how to read it, up until the hat becomes pointy or the top hat stays flat.
Oh, yeah.
The level of knowledge, it's a symbolism of your level of knowledge. When you see the crosses, these nuns and priests and Catholics, when they have a cross around their neck, and then they have the cross on the beads that they have on their hand below that cross. That's two crosses. That makes a capital I. The cross on their chest is like how I was trying to find Native American Indian necklace knives. As I found was a bunch of costume jewelry knives. I don't know if that's actually what they did or not. That's what it kind of reminds me of. The cross on your chest is your knife in the sheath. The cross down below is the inversion. It's the shadow. You draw a 6-point star on a piece of paper and you tilt it sideways, you'll see a cross with a shadow. That's the inversion. So when they show double crosses like that, it's a symbol of inversion.
Double crosses are very also commonly used, even in the Freemasonry.
I didn't hear that. Am I breaking up too?
No, you're right.
Yeah. Maybe I'm only breaking up. I said the double crosses are also used in other symbols, also in the Freemasonry. They are used.
Well, if you look at how they hold their hands down by their, how you say, nether regions, we'll say, a cusp, and a ball. That's the collection of the lifeblood. That cross down there shows it's a sword. You're cutting, symbolism of cutting off, like Santos was saying. You know, and I've said this many years ago too. Is if you keep your life force within you, you can actually reach higher levels of resonance. And you got to understand what he was talking about, the tantric magic, which is known also as high sex magic. But I'm not sure about what. There's going to be some differences between those two. But they talk about, like, I was looking up, and I looked up placenta, right? So a knife down there with their cusping as a ball with their knife around their chain, their sword around their chain. There. That's when you cut the umbilical cord, and the placenta. That's. I'm going way off here. I'm going to save this for next one. So that's what that is symbolizing. If you know anything about a movement from the 1970s, it started that the placenta being highly nutritious, typically only is given to the mother, and this is where it gets diluted and delusional. The human sacrifice gets diluted and delusional. All right there, you know, through birth, it all happens naturally. The blood sacrifice is all natural. Gives it after every 28 days. It all comes together. It's all this other stuff that you see. I notice a lot of witches, if you look that up, they wear red, the white, showing you that the life is there.
Yeah, when you
sorry about that. Kind of hit some words that just
you find that the emperors and stuff like that would normally have two groups of women follow behind them. One is harem, and one a group of 24 women that would be virginal, and they'd all maintain their menstruation so that he would make sure he had a constant flow.
Yeah, a constant cycle. You can women should cycle themselves up with the moon phases, because it's supposed to be easier, what I'm gathering. But you know, the man has no right to that. That's the woman's. That's the female's right. That's her higher right. That's her.
Heart was so here, actually.
It's a little bit. He's using an iPad. That's why. I don't know why the speaker's funny, but
he's breaking up sometimes. Yeah.
Yeah, he's muting himself with his own voice. As soon as he speaks, the first sound gets there, but then the rest is muted.
Artist, what are you showing there on your picture?
Oh, just a picture I found about it. Was basically about the KKK, and they also used those kind of heads that look like wizard heads. And of course, you know, they have a lot of symbolism in there.
Wizard outfit.
Yeah. I think this one is related to the KKK, but I'm not sure 100%. But just to show you how a kind of outfit that looks a little bit like a wizard outfit, like they portrayed wizards in stories, and how they and also witches in stories, they always dress them up in this kind of fashion. Also magicians and. Just to give you an example, what basically those clothing looks like. Sometimes it is hard to get a picture how something is, and it's always handy to illustrate it with a picture so people can understand what we are talking about in a better way. For some people, what is always handy if I talk about something that I have a picture available to see how it is, because you can describe something, but the picture is sometimes handier.
So,
Yeah.
artist, Angel, what do you think of all this then?
Well, I'm actually it's very a lot to think about. I mean, I don't have any exact words to go on.
Well, do you want to talk about anything else then, as this is Artist and Angel Night?
I have nothing new I've been playing with, so it's like I said, I'm just here for the conversation and to listen in. I enjoy many of the things that he's able to find in the pictures he discovers. It allows me to go sightseeing to places that I'd never go, and he pulls up pictures that I'd be most interested in, like he points out, as opposed to the common person that would be taking pictures of pretty flowers and the walkway and tourism.
Yeah, but we all know what you want to do. You want to build a pyramid. That's what you're waiting to do, isn't it?
That, and I like to look at the construction of the structures that currently exist.
Mm-hmm.
And because somebody did take the time to build them, and they didn't take the time to build something that big all the time because they wanted to just make a postcard. Sometimes it actually was functional. The ones that you were looking at earlier, I did want to mention, I do think when you look at somebody like Victor Schauberger, he points out that water doesn't like to be in square containers. It doesn't like corners because it allows water to go stale. The best shape is an egg shape, which kind of kills me because when I went to see the Pompeii exhibit, I'm there with one of the docent guys who, by the way, kept using the word BCE and CE, which I kept complaining with him about. But he's up there and he says, and they made them in these egg-shaped containers, and I'm like, well, yeah, because that's the best way to store stuff so it doesn't stale. He's like, well, we don't know that. And I'm like, well, this guy that the U.S. paid a bunch of money who did reports and stuff like that said it back in the middle of the 19th century. So why don't we know that? It's one of these things that they don't teach, even though it's like nutrition. Dr. Wallach, one of the guys that I spoke about earlier a couple of weeks ago, he did hundreds of autopsies for we the people here in the United States. And his findings were submitted to the U.S. archive or whatever it is. And of course, it's one of those things that they hide in the basement. They get the knowledge, they know the knowledge, but they hide the knowledge because the knowledge doesn't benefit them. The knowledge benefits the people. It doesn't benefit the government. So the government doesn't care. It doesn't fit the story. It doesn't fit the medical story. It doesn't fit the trust your doctor story. So.
Yeah, indeed. They try to hide it when it doesn't fit the story.
Yeah, I was looking and I did more. There's a guy, I can probably find him not too horribly, that focuses on just the top couple of states here in the U.S. of where they have large structures made of stone that are phenomenally engineered. They're like ice houses that are underground, that are made of stone, that are holding the weight of the ground above them, that are masterpieces in rock work, dry rock, is without Mason type stuff, and these are great works, and he points them out, and there are places that he has pictures of them in the Smithsonian, but the Smithsonian knows of them but dismisses them because they show that there was somebody of higher intelligence here, somebody who knew about structuring and all this stuff. I'm like, oh no, it was blah 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 Indians. They must have done it. Well, they didn't do it. Look at this, and the evidence of people of larger than 7 feet tall, pictures of them with skeletons and things like this. That again, you get pictures and articles in the newspaper, and then out of sight, out of mind. Just pictures of the articles of the flat Earth things, and then poof, out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, it was also on the German television. My dad was telling me there was a big strike in Africa against Shell. Thousands of people. I think it was a month ago. And then he called me, well, look at the 8 o'clock news, because in the 6 o'clock news, it was on the 6 o'clock news in Germany, on the RDR channel, and they had a big strike against Shell. A lot of people, thousands of people strike against Shell with all kinds of signs that they were fed up with Shell and they want Shell out of Africa and all that sort of things, and they were poisoning the ground. And then so my dad called me about that, and I was looking at the 8 o'clock news, and it was left out. So only in the 6 o'clock news that almost nobody watches, they reported, so they can state we have reported it. And then in the 8 o'clock news and in the 10 o'clock news, they left it out.
Well, no. See, they probably mentioned it by saying, oh, and there was a traffic delay in front of the Shell department because of a bunch of people in the street. Have a nice day and have a good weekend.
No, not even that. They only mentioned that in the 6 o'clock news and the 8 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news. It was completely left out. Or just what you say, they also do that sometimes. They mention it very short, indeed, at the end of the news. Also, there was a strike with Shell. Have a nice evening.
Well, sometimes they don't even say, they say, and there was a traffic jam in front of the Shell plant, but it was quickly cleared up by our wonderful police department. Have a nice day. They don't mention the reason for it, where it was a protest. They just say there was a traffic jam, but our wonderful police cleared it up. Had to kill a few people, shoot a few, tase a few, no big deal.
Yeah. Also, the next idea, and now we go to the other subjects indeed at hand. Also, what they sometimes indeed tell, there was they burned it down in McDonald's in France, because in France there were a couple of McDonald's burned down by the local people because they didn't want their McDonald's over there. And they also basically only thought there was a McDonald's burned down, and our great fire department made sure it wasn't completely burned down to the ground, but they don't mention that people of the community burned it out because they didn't want the McDonald's in their village. That is the part they leave out. So indeed, that's how they play the news. The
fire department was able to save the main structure, and the insurance company will be paying for it, and a new super McDonald's will be built in its place by early next fall. So all the children will have a safe place to play while they eat the wonderful Happy Meal food.
Yeah. And now we even have a new Happy Meal. It's a glow-in-the-dark Happy Meal. So you can even eat it if all the light is gone.
Self-heating. You just take it out of the refrigerator and put it on the counter for a while, and it gets warm in no time.
And it even glows in the dark, so you can even eat it in the dark. Very handy.
At night.
We don't tell what all kinds of chemicals are in there to make it glow and make it heat up, but it's very handy. That's the important thing.
Don't worry, they're
the faster food gets.
They don't kill a rat in 90 days.
No. Yeah. Yeah, that's the promise. If you feed it to your pet rat, it won't die in 90 days. That we know for sure. Yeah.
91st, we're not sure about.
Yeah. Don't pin us down on that. Yeah.
So yeah, but it's some of those structures that you pointed out were quite amazingly built. Oh, and I was getting back to the water bit. I do think some of the structures that you had pointed out earlier, the way that they were rounded and stuff, I do think it looked like there were two watermarks. The way you were talking about the wearing on the rocks, it looked like there was a high water mark, and the wearing was all below the high water mark, and there was a low water mark. Like that would be like the lowest point the water would be, and the other one would be like the highest point the water would be.
Oh yeah.
The fact that the walls were rounded didn't click to me at first. I was kind of working on sonar and stuff, because another little factoid is that stereo, technically, if you put it on a map and draw out all those little echo lines and stuff like that, works better in a room that has rounded edges. So I thought at first it was some sort of a way to do harmonics and keeping certain sounds within a cubed environment. But after looking at some of the wear marks of some more things and understanding water more and stuff, I do think it was a vessel to hold and maintain water. And the reason for it being curved is so that water doesn't have a spot where it can kind of rest. So water is always moving, and hence it doesn't get stale.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But, and especially how it was underground, and I think if you looked at those watermarks and we had the ability to walk around the room, we'd see that some of the openings are right at those levels, and would probably justify the reasons for some of the watermarks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because most structures indeed have are related to water, having water around them or water in them. Yeah, that's what I have.
Nothing to do with may have nothing to do with electricity, just maybe a storage containment for water, and they may have had a roof or ceiling over it. These people could do some major construction bit, and something that was made out of metal or glass or something at this point can be long lost. It's only the stuff that's made out of rock that are kind of retaining.
When it is precious metal, well, the chances of that being stolen is very high, of course. Yeah.
But, that's another thing about it. Would be great when the one that you pointed out that I think kind of looked like a hot tub, to actually be able to get whether those areas that were dark around the top, if it was just filled in with moss or something, and that was actually water, or a conduit that could have been used for water. I mean, there could be a lot more to some of these structures, and if there are really cool conduits in there, then it opens up the scenario that whole area was again a poured blob of whatever type of rock they say it is, or composite rock, or mixture, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, most time it's close to the hardness of granite. But...
we haven't really looked at or had the knowledge of how to do this sort of stuff until, again, the past decade or two, of how to make the mixture that generates rocks that look like that. So and we didn't have the technology to even tell what rocks are real rocks and aren't real rocks because we couldn't get to things at microscopic levels into the past decade or two. So now we have a whole new area that I'm sure many historians are fearful to address because the answers may tell them that some of these, definitely the sculptures they have in many museums may not be actual real rock. Some of their stuff may be fabricated and then sold a bill of goods. But I think that's because they recast things, hide the originals downstairs, put the fake ones upstairs, and only yuppies get to see the real ones.
Yeah.
And that's for insurance reasons, of course.
Yeah.
You don't need to see the real one. But
I just popped up a picture I found on the internet on a site that was also talking about ancient foundation. It's also a possibility.
You filled that with water, it may just run as a big, huge fountain.
Yeah. Also, foundations, modern foundation are also built with those holes and spaces. So it's interesting. Just to show you, there's also another possibility for those holes. I don't state that it is actually the fact, but it's just I try to get as broad of a spectrum as possible.
If one of those was such that it was underneath like a wooden flooring, you could have a fire on one side, like in your kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
The heat came across through the bottom of the floor and came up.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that could have been done and built into the construction of the house very easily, and because they're made of rock, they last. But again, that goes to show that these people either had the way to chisel into the rock very efficiently, very easily, or they were able to cast or pour these structures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one thing is for sure, they were very skilled in making those monolithic structures.
Yeah. This is true. I just like to look at what some of them did. Or could have done.
That is also what I'm trying to find out. But it's very hard to actually pinpoint it for a certainty. Yeah. And that's why I love that you are on the Hangout, because you always have a great views about these kind of topics.
Well,
that I forgot to think about. And I think, Angel, he's right. I have to look into that.
I look at it like a big Lego set.
Yeah. And maybe I can rebuild something in Lego that looks the same. It's an idea. Yeah. Maybe I should get my old Legos out. I have a big case of Legos still, and maybe I can duplicate it with Lego a bit.
That one
big bits of Lego there, though, artist. Big bits of Lego there.
Yeah, very big.
That one that you had that looked like it was in the side of a mountain. That was like somebody's living room in the side of a mountain, or their main.
Oh yeah.
Have you located that on Google like Earth or Google Maps?
No, not yet. I just recently found it, so those are the really new ones. Let's see. Oh, that one from Peru I've found. That one in Peru, the first false door I showed. That one I have. I will take the pop of the picture. That's more handy to show it. That one that I'm now showing. That one I have found actually. This one.
Well, that
I know
one.
Where it is.
That one is cool, but I was actually. That one is the same type of scenario as the other one, and you can even see there where it expanded out further, like it was a larger structure.
Yeah. Yeah, indeed. If you look at the other picture, you can see it very large. even here, it also looks a part of a structure because this stone is loose. You can see also this stone is on top of this other stone, but you can see you have a separating line over here.
Well, what I'm seeing right here is dead ahead of you on that left-hand wall that you can see here looks like a piece of the structure, but that's on the opposite, on the other wall, the left-hand wall. Right there. If you look in a little bit, it looks like there's an angle coming down where it looks like something was up against it, the wall, not the green area. But that would be the opposite side of the wall where the house area is, which is on the side, right? It's on the opposite side of that brick wall.
Yeah.
That's kind of weird to have a rock like in between your wall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or maybe this was the second floor and it came down.
Well, yeah, but there's rock there, and dirt.
Yeah. For me, it always looks like it was a strong force that went straight through this building. It looks like for me because there's everywhere again there are pieces of rock laying around. And it almost looks like this was almost liquid at one point. Basically, what it looks like on Google Earth, I can really fast show where that area is. As fast as possible. Oh, lost it. Basically, it's over here. This region.
Okay.
Maybe just a little bit here. I think it's here.
And that's the one where we did the follow the path of the molten metal.
Yeah. So these, you can see those mountains just basically look like those mountains. Also, you can see they're not very broad. This is very thin, sticking out mountains, and this is the same over here. You have those pieces and it's that what I showed before. See over here, just outside the picture. Maybe I can quickly look at maps and pop it up for you because Google Earth isn't working. I have to do it in maps. Peru. If you give me a second, I will try to find the exact location. It's handy that I know where it is. Just a second. Yeah, right. Okay. I have to close this one down. And I'm searching for something for Angel. Just a second. I've already got it. Yeah. Share. Basically, this over here on the map. This is Lake Titicaca in Peru. I can zoom out that you can see actually the side. This is that strike, and that strike is going down to that salt lake over here. Basically, where that false doorway was is over here. Over here. Oh. Over here, you can clearly see it. This is this area. Yeah, this area. Again, you have here some sort of very dark mountains, as you can see. And all ancient structures are in in Peru are situated near this site. All this, say about 70% of the ancient structures in Peru are in that strike zone. And if you say nearby, it's almost 100%. Because that Puma Punco I was mentioning with those stones that look like they could be using for casting station is over here. But that's also interesting that very ancient sites, two of the sites are situated in this zone. Interesting, but I still don't have pictures for that. Also here, over here in this lake, Lake Titicaca, over here there's a sunken city. Maybe you can even see it over here. Over here there's a whole.
It was 800 feet underground.
I don't know how much it is underground, but it's basically that sunken city's over here.
And that's a lake.
This is a lake, yeah. It's Lake Titicaca. Lake Titicaca.
Can be lowered.
Yeah, it can be lowered. It's basically in this area there's a little different color to it. This area, there's a sunken city, but there are only 2 pictures of that. So I have to investigate more about that. It's actually the real deal. Because
out here, honestly, out here in California, we make reservoirs every now. Well, we used to before Agenda 21. Make reservoirs all the time, and if you go out scuba diving in some of these reservoirs, you can go scuba diving in people's houses because they said, "Hey, we're going to put a reservoir here, and in 20 years, you're going to be underwater. Time to move. Have a nice day." So
okay.
It is conceivable that this lake was raised. It almost looks like there's a dam in the corner there, so that city underground may actually, naturally be a city.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a dam somewhere on that lake? I've got to think in today's world there is, which would be part of the reason why some of this is underwater.
Not that I know of. But
no? Okay.
No.
I could be wrong. I
can also be wrong, but to my knowledge, there isn't a dam, but maybe I've missed it. Huh?
Well, nature decides somewhere what the level is. Somewhere there's a spillway, or maybe it just hasn't the fullest amount yet in our.
I can type it in on Google, Google of course, Lake Titicaca and then dam.
That would be true.
Peru. Did I write it?
You looking something up, artist?
Yeah. For if there is a dam in that lake or not.
It's something.
Live research.
If something maintaining its water level, like the Great Lakes, they're all spilling off into the ocean, but all of them at this point are controlled to some degree. And the rivers and such, and all those rivers, well, the rivers aren't really controlled. They may have dams in them that are generation plants, but that doesn't really slow down the rate that it's coming out of the Great Lake into the ocean. It just plays with it along the way.
I'm searching on the internet, and there's, to my knowledge, no dam there.
Okay, so if there are heavy rains, it could get deeper.
Yeah.
So Al Gore,
I typed it in Lake Titicaca dam, but
Al Gore should not buy land on the edge of Lake Titicaca.
No. Maybe if I type dam in front of it, because that's why sometimes you have to type the most important words. No. Okay. No. What is the case that the line you see going through that that lake is basically the borderline line of between Peru and Bolivia. This is Peru, this is Bolivia, if I'm right. Oh no, it's the other way around. This is Bolivia and this is Peru. Yeah.
They probably love it, don't they? Because these parts of the world are sort of more remote, and you know, like they won't even have telephones. Most of them probably won't even have telephones like we do.
Mm-hmm.
So there's probably so much hidden in there.
Yeah.
In these countries.
Oh, for sure. I think they even have to find everything there is there, because it's such a big land, and there are so many structures, and it wouldn't surprise me if they found newer structures hidden away somewhere in the forest, because there's also a big forest in Peru. And basically, if you look at pictures in that big forest, there are none too slim pictures. So it wouldn't surprise me if they found an ancient structure in the forest of Peru or Bolivia.
They found those pyramids, didn't they? I can't remember where it was quite now, but they were sort of hidden, a whole complex hidden in the jungle, didn't they?
Yeah, that is from the Mayas. There they have a lot of... the Maya pyramids are hidden. Most of them are still hidden in the jungle. They have found just a percentage of all those Maya temples. I think it wouldn't surprise me if they only found 20%, and that 80% is still hidden, because there is a lot of stories and also some evidence of videos of people going into the jungle and finding all kinds of parts of ancient structures still in the jungle of Mayan cities. And also there are also a lot of temples destroyed by some developers. They use the blocks of those temples for their own structures illegally. So I think there's about 2 structures, ancient Maya structures, demolished by building companies, so they could use the block for their building sites. Even today. It's ridiculous, but it happens.
Do you find it a bit annoying or frustrating that we still don't even really know how old all these things are?
Yeah. It's frustrating that I have to do
anymore, do we? We just don't know nothing. So everything's such a lie.
It's a little bit frustrating that you have to basically start at point 0 and do your investigation just from the ground up again, because all the things they tell you about ancient structures are lies most of the time. Just like...
That's about what I was going to say, is you need to look with your own eyes at the structure and come to your own guesses and just play with that. But when the people that teach you of it give their thing, they're just regurgitating what they were told. And many times what they were told is, even if you look at somebody 300 years ago that generated a story about some of these structures that are hundreds of years old, the story that they generated was long before the knowledge of what we know today about many things. So if we take that story that's generations old and re-look at it and just readdress the structure with a naked eye, and come to your own conclusions, like you don't know where it is, which is why one of the things I say when I talk about the pyramid is I say I want to pull your head out of the sand, take the structure and put it somewhere else on the planet. I just want to talk about the structure and how the elements would operate inside of the structure. I don't want to deal with any tomb dogmas, but King Alibaba would want this or that, or whatever. I just want to focus on real world, real planet, real whatever, real Earth. It's you need to look at things with your own knowledge of what can happen, and part of the reason why people don't do that is because they're force fed a preconceived thought, and then they're not told how the real world works. They're told how to operate in the real world, not how the real world works. It's the form of education, schooling that they are getting is not to how to think, it's what to think. And that is, as you kind of all pointed out, it kind of was a turning point in the 60s. And it's going with, everyone being taught the same, no matter what country you're in. It's a worldwide, this is how we're going to think, this is what to think, plan. This piece of paper is money, and take your shot and smile for your ID.
I've seen the hangout that I'm still presenting.
Oh, sorry.
You're worth it. Present away.
Well, it's basically only showing my icon, so that's a little bit boring.
It's mixed now. It'll jump around when anybody talks. Whoops, sorry, chat room.
Yeah, that can happen. Sorry to cut you off there, Angel.
They go for it, Angel. What were you saying?
I was pretty done. All I was saying is, it's it's all for your safety.
Yeah. Do your own investigation and don't believe everything that you are taught at school.
I'd say, at this point, it used to be trust but verify. At this point, it's listen to what they say, only so you know what you need to research.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
It's no longer trust and verify. And today it's going to be partly cloudy. All right, let's look outside and see what the weather is.
Yeah. Indeed.
Go on.
We have been going for nearly 3 hours now, by the way, guys.
Already? Whoa.
It's 10 to 12.
Oh, the time flies.
Having so much fun, yeah, that's it. Time flies
when you're having fun. Yeah.
Yeah, always, always.
I'll come back and put my camera on. Patricia, are you still there?
Patricia.
Yeah, I'm still here. Can't get rid of me,
Good.
But we don't want to get rid of you.
Never.
That's all right then. I'll let you off.
Trotters, are you there, by the way? Oh, he's gone quiet.
No, I'm here.
Hey, what do you think about what's being discussed tonight then?
It's just great information all around. You guys are all great researched information. Thank you for sharing it.
You're welcome.
I always learn something when I come on panel, whether if I interject or not. I just listen, and you guys have good information to offer. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, Sun and the Moon group's full of loads of people all researching and that. An artist, usually surprises people with his information. Angel, do you want to say anything then? Because we're going to close in a minute because it's nearly 3 hours.
Stay cool to each other? I don't know. It's always fun to be here. I thank you always.
Hey. I know when you came on, you had so much to say about pyramids.
Well, I could say it over and over again if you want me to recite it, but
yeah, I think maybe next time, maybe because it's been a few weeks now. You know, like it's been a little while. Maybe you could go back over some of the pyramid stuff because, you know, that's just so interesting.
I'll recite it because I'd like to get people's feedback. I guess, like I said, the best thing I'd like is somebody to truly look at it and say, well, this wouldn't work. Because whatever somebody says, well, this wouldn't work, as long as there's really a reason behind them saying that, not just, well, this wouldn't work because the government said so. Well, you can't drive across the country on less than 2 gallons of water. You can't do it. Well, this guy did it. Well, there's a book here that says he didn't. Well, there's a book that says 2 airplanes took down 3 buildings in New York. That doesn't mean I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't believe it anymore, do we? That's the point, because it...
We are in the state of the know instead of the believe.
Yeah.
But we still don't know everything, do we? So it's a little bit annoying. It's not like even one of the historians has stood up and said, okay, I'll tell you the truth.
Well, sometimes
what we know for sure. The rest is just figuring it out.
Like I said, I was up in LA and I was supposedly hanging out with this docent that supposedly knew the pieces of artifacts that I was looking at better than like the person who built them themselves. And here he is, and he keeps going back and forth about, oh, this was built in blah, 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 CE and BCE and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, you're talking about current era. Current era, if you really want to look at it, should be from everything that we know of before the flood, which would probably be a few thousand years before the flood. That's when that clock should start. And he's like, well, yeah, I agree with you. Okay, so if you agree with me, why do you keep regurgitating BCE and CE as if they're the same as AD and BC? Because they're not. You know, and this is one of the things that also goes back to my belief of how in the 400 years ago when we changed a lot of things, one of them was the calendar. And I think that's because we're moving more and more away from reading the calendar as following the celestial bodies, because then they can give us any time stamp they want, and we just have to go along with it because they're making up the time. They make it up. We don't even follow the sun as it is right now. You used to be able to stick a ground, put a stick in the ground and tell the time. Now you have to trust your little toy. It's what time is it? Siri, what time is it? It's you don't have
Ceres, tell the time.
You don't have a way to do it yourself. You don't have
a video out, although we got a warning because we were actually playing it. It was all to do with time zones. And they've changed the time through history. They've moved it back, moved it forward. Then they decided 1 year to start the year on the 25th of March. Yeah, the whole year just started on the 25th of March. You can get, they take milliseconds off. They add seconds on. Then suddenly this country says, I'm not moving my time zone forward, the daylight saving forward. Some decide to lose a couple of days and go forward. I mean, it's just all crazy. None of this could happen if we were on a ball.
Then you also
how do you sort history out? Because it means it wasn't really that time for these people. Because it'll be a different time. It might even be a different day.
Which is why really time should be marked to celestial events, because these celestial events happen in normally periods that are prime numbers, which makes it a lot easier. And some of these prime numbers are pretty big prime numbers. So if we marked history based on celestial events, it would be a lot easier to tell when somebody's trying to fudge the numbers, because it doesn't matter what day the king says this month to go wrong. I know April 1st was at one point New Year's. That's why it's April Fool's. I know that we currently follow the sun and its progression. Before that, we used to follow the eclipse elliptic.
Hey, do you know
Hey.
something else as well?
Right.
They brought all these daylight saving times in the 60s.
Yeah, it's all.
Second World War, we never had any.
They
in
need
the
to
UK.
break you. They need to
56.
break you from reality. Break you from reality. So if I walk up to somebody and try to point something out to you that's realistic as it is, I have to reteach you everything. As Yoda says, you have to unlearn everything you have learned. And it's only bit by bit by bit. We can sit here, I can talk with you guys because you are on the same page as I am. But if I was to grab an average person off the street, it is night and day. It's the words, cash, money, gravity, earth, flat, hemisphere, all these, it's different to different people. It's because there's reality and what we're taught.
Yeah, indeed. And also every group has its own calendar, like the Freemasons. You can see they're almost 4,000 years further than our calendar.
Waiting to get it up, Artie. So the panel's been a bit slow.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm in.
So you can see that this calendar of the Freemasons, it was one of 2011.
At the moment, hang on, I'm going to present you.
It's now 2000. Yeah,
So really, honestly, if somebody wanted to bicker over when BCE and CE should have their calendar date, I would go with that date. And really, if that's the game they're trying to play, then that's great.
Yeah.
But for them to be pushing this BCE, CE genre into the situation and have it be knocking 4,000 years off the calendar, I mean, that's easily done. 3-4 generations down the road, and they've been pumping this BCE, CE thing and telling you it's synonymous, and all of a sudden, boom, 4,000 years are gone.
Yeah, so basically this calendar tells you, look at 617 years ago, 6,017 years ago, because that's an important date for the Freemasons. And don't look 2,070 years ago. No, look at 6,017 years ago. That is basically what this calendar is telling also. Because they use that. So
well, it should be moon calendar would be a better thing.
Yeah, or something like that. But I just want to point out that
the moon, as I understand the Bible to do it, the moon should separate the year into its months. But the year should be the progression of the celestial plane.
How do they do it though, Angel? Because in reality, there's 13 moons a year, so there should be 13 months in a sense if you follow the moon calendar.
Plus 1 day. 13 months in a day, year in a day. Hence the term a year in a day. That'll take a year in a day. And the exact way it does it, I'm still trying to work out, because everything I think I know, somebody else says, but well, you have to consider this, which is why I'm really trying to focus on things like an astrolabe, things like the Antikythera device, to get the Antikythera device into like a Java code so I can actually play with it and compare it to things like the that celestial thing that you can download, whatever it is, Celestron or whatever it is. The one that tells you where all the planets are and the celestial bodies out there. Anyway, but and compare it to all this stuff and see what's more correct. Because I know because of these devices that every time they say, oh, we just discovered this, I'm like, well, how did you just discover something that this device that they found that's older than your discovery already knew it? So we're just relearning things. We don't really discover things. And I think
Really
I would like to pay more attention to what history has to show us, what these large structures that you're pointing out, because some of them will teach us things, like how to hold our water to better keep rats away and better keep bugs away. I mean, we have to learn from these people because they were doing things a lot more organically, a lot more in tune with nature. They really were. And like I say, we focus on the macro, not the micro. And, you know, this is how to do refrigeration quickly so we can make it really, really cold. And this is how to do heat. We can make it really, really hot. And we can use microwaves. We can do it really, really fast. And where these guys were kind of more like, look, if you put the turkey out and you put the sun cooker out, by the end of the day, you'll have a turkey that's ready. No. I don't know if they actually ate turkey. They probably, you know, cooked the vegetables that way. But who knows? I think they were much more in one with
same
nature.
as my parents actually rediscovered the composting method they used and wrote down in books from before the wars.
Yeah, it's like if somebody translated Tesla like scribbles and make something that says, "Oh, look what I discovered." Well, what you discovered is how to read Tesla shorthand.
Yeah.
Well, they've intervened with history, haven't they? For sure, they've intervened with it a lot, and I suppose burn it's a bit hard to go back so far, isn't it? And then they've written the history wrong and manipulated it, and
Well,
just for the record,
it's a reflection of what they've done to us, because there's some pretty not nice people out there at the moment, and they all seem to be doing the same things they'd say they don't like. You know, they don't like all what's happening in the lies, but they're just doing the same things. But anyway, they just seem to be able to manipulate. They've manipulated everything.
just for the record, Ceres is muted and he can't unmute. He wrote that in a group chat. So if you can't hear Ceres anymore, it's because he's muted in some kind of strange way. Just to point that out.
No, I'm just going to go to the panel and have a look.
He put it in a group chat, and I was read the group chat, and he's stating, I can't unmute as well. Something is muting me. So.
Let me unmute him.
Well, tell him it was the garlic he ate.
Yeah. Maybe. Maybe. You never know. Sometimes these hangouts, you have strange things. I can't unmute as well. Out of the nothing, I became muted, and the message saying I can do anything about it. That's what he typed in the group chat.
Out then.
You can log off and log back in, maybe.
Yeah, try that, Ceres. Strange. Just maybe.
Is that what he's going to do? He's going to come back in, is he?
Just maybe NASA stopped screwing with this hangout if they are doing that. Sorry.
So I'm just telling the chats, someone in the chat room, because obviously they're saying, "Oh, what happened?"
That was weird.
Yeah.
I was talking and I saw something muted me, and then a message that I couldn't do anything about it. So, not literally, but okay, really weird. This.
Yeah, for sure. Strange.
Yeah, and what were you saying then, Ceres? You weren't saying anything. You just knew you were muted.
Yeah, I was saying something, but then I lost my train.
Yeah. It must be important. It must be important what you were saying, because otherwise they don't mute you.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
I think if they don't like things, I get warnings up there on the panel where it says live up there. I get warnings coming from up there when they don't like things. Are we going to continue on a bit, or do we finish, even though Ceres has just come back?
I'm back.
Artist and Angel, do you want to carry on a bit longer talking, or?
Oh, I could talk about a lot of things, but if you want to wrap it up, I'm good with that.
So we will save it for next time. Then we have also next time something to talk about.
Yeah, I think that so Angel to go over a bit more of the pyramids again, because it's been a few weeks now, and you know we need a bit more pyramid talk.
Glad.
So we do that next week then. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Out now, and thank you very much for Josh, who's gone now, Patricia, Ceres, Michael, who is Flat Trotters, Artist, and Angel. And 9 p.m. So, everybody, thank you very much, and we will see you tomorrow. So, from all of us, say goodbye. Oh, yeah, Flat Earth hugs.
Big hugs.
Hey.
Good night,
See you
everybody.
next time.
No.
Good night, everybody, and see you next time.
Good night, everybody. Thank you very much for watching.
Love you
Bye.
all.
There she is, Patricia. Hug. It's for you, Patricia. Okay, then. See you tomorrow night, everybody. Bye then.